Let's get this ball rolling. So this is our, I think, fourth session of Cafe 42. I apologize for last month. I was ill, not feeling very good. I had hit a deer, so it wasn't a good day. But this session, we're going to be talking about kind of what I would consider our year-end stuff that we do with our data, particularly youth enrollment records and our group enrollment forms, kind of get ready for putting that information into the ES-237, and then kind of discussing rollover, and if there's any troubleshooting questions or issues, we can go over that as well. The ES-237 is basically a report that captures our youth numbers, our adult numbers, also demographic information, our and then basically what a group enrollment form captures is if we're doing day camps or programs with youth, we're capturing those numbers as well. Are we reaching what would be considered duplicates? So that would be 4-H participants that are already in the system. Or do we have new people? So that would be guests or people perhaps that have never heard of 4-H. So we compile all of that, and that ES-237 report gets turned into the USDA. So it's a pretty important piece of paper, if you will. It's not paper anymore. It's a report that actually is automatically assembled and processed by 4-H Online. But the part that we have to input is in the group enrollment form. So one thing I'm going to share, everybody should have the staff help sheet bookmarked. This is basically your one-stop shopping for all things relating to 4-H Online. That said, this web address will probably be changing. I'm not anticipating until the beginning of the new year, but this will be part of the 4-H website at some point, and we are changing platforms on that. So it's still going to be Sitecore, but this will get a new look for sure. Excuse me. But one thing to note about this, if you have staff turnover or if you're at district meetings and somebody hasn't blipped on my radar that they are a new employee, and perhaps they aren't sure what 4-H Online is, they need to visit with me, but they also need to come into this website. This website is designed to give you some good support materials to help you get an understanding of what 4-H Online is. Now granted, this very first recording I did is about 3 hours, but if you want like the massive detailed nose to toes basic functions of 4-H Online, that's very thorough. I'm also willing to connect with new folks, do a Zoom session, so whatever is needed, I am here. And one thing that we have done a little bit differently this year is we haven't done the regional face-to-face trainings. You know, there was a lot of feedback I received that people really didn't want it, and my attendance was kind of mirroring that. So if that has changed, then I need to know about that. You know, I want to be able to help you, so how can I help you? But this tool is here for you. So if there is information that is missing on this page or a tip sheet that is needed, let me know. But one of the big things that we're going to be talking about today is that year-end rollover in our ES-237. So one of the common questions that I get on the ES-237, or some other folks who kind of field those questions would be like Maureen Toomey and Nancy Shelstead, or even Donna. So what do I need to report? If you've done after-school activities, 4-H Fridays, yes, you want to capture those as a group enrollment. If it's an actual 4-H after-school club, no, because the children are enrolled in the system as a 4-H club. This whole entire cheat sheet goes through a wide variety of activities that we do throughout the year, and give some guidelines as to what needs to be reported or not. So where do we report our group enrollments? So when you log into 4-H Online, and I am in the demo county, and again, this is our proverbial playground. If you want to test out items, the demo county is where to do that at. You do not want to do this in your data in your county per se. I have worked very hard at trying to blow up the demo county, and I have failed. So it's all good. But the group enrollment form, or to enter in that information, and I actually should say that on the staff help sheet page, I do have the group enrollment form here. It is in the Word document, so if you have educators, can you guys see this document? Okay, so if you have educators that are going to be reporting to CALS Plan, 90% of the time, and if they've done programs with youth, then 90% of the time that data should be captured in 4-H Online. So that's why I have these handy little boxes. So when the reporting's done, you can just check it off. But basically, what the form captures for the person who's done the program is basically all of the information the group enrollment form is going to capture or want from you in 4-H Online. The description, where it was at, or where the event or activity was held at, the starting date. You're going to capture your numbers. So again, your duplicates are current 4-H participants, regardless of their age. We've got a breakout here for grade distribution, and then also the racial distribution. If it's an activity where perhaps you have adults volunteers or youth volunteers that are engaging on that, we capture that information as well. And last but not least, if there was a training component to that activity. So what happens with the group enrollment, let's say we've done some activities over the year. We're going to click off of our dashboard onto the group enrollment icon. And there's this little gray bar. It says Add Group Enrollment. And what you can see below here, this is older group enrollments, and then also what 4-H year those are from. But when you click Add Group Enrollment, it basically is a 3-step process. It's going to ask you your program name. I'm going to say, and my favorite testing one is just Camp Clover Bed, just because that's a common Camp Clover Bed is a day camp several folks do in the summertime. It's a little short 1-day activity, and we'll just say that we're doing it today. So, and then it'll default to this 4-H year. With the 4-H focus, and then also Barbara Petty, or Dr. Petty's e-notes that went out yesterday, I've had a couple emails stressing about the timeline or the due date being the 20th. That has rapidly, or is rapidly approaching. We do have a little bit of leeway on that date. You have a couple weeks. If we can try to get everybody's information in, I would say no later than the end of October. So that gives you a little bit more time to do this.
The end of October or end of September, Erica?
We'll shoot for the end of October. Although we've rolled over into a new 4-H year by that point, you still can enter in your data without being in jeopardy of missing that reporting that we do to the federal level. Okay. So we do have a little bit of lead time. If you have a way of getting that in, the sooner the better, just so it's done. But we definitely need to try to work towards getting that done. Like I said, no later than the end of October. It does give you a few more weeks so your educators can breathe a little easier, but or you very may well be doing that reporting for them. which you shouldn't have to. If you have somebody who's doing a lot of work with youth directly, they can get access into 4-H Online. I'd be happy to work with them. They're having to report into CalsClan anyways, their youth numbers. Then they should be adding in that information into 4-H Online. And I get a lot of questions, well, isn't it the same thing? No. CalsClan is an internal reporting to the University of Idaho. So that information goes into a different spot that does not go into the USDA. So those are two separate reporting pieces. The reporting does have to happen. So anyways, we're gonna go into the 4-H year. And so Rosie, if you're entering in data after we've rolled over, which automatically happens at midnight, September 30th, then you'll want to make sure that we're entering it into the right data set. Okay. At that point, we're going to be at 1516.
Okay.
So then our camp, there's a lot of different camp options. And it is going to be just camp. We're going to call our group camp. In our delivery mode, so this is a biggie. We have a bunch of different delivery modes. Overnight camping is an overnight component. Day camp programs, this would be a day camp. It's a short term. You will have an option for school enrichment or administrative. So there's a variety of different options here, and there is descriptions on the staff help sheet page, you know, as far as delineating more of a definition on what these items are. But this is a short-term day camp type component. So we're going to select that. Betty Boop was the instructor, and it was at Snow Creek Pond. And unfortunately, these fields are, everything in bold here is required, so you can't skip it. The system will do a little freak out for you. We have 8 hours of delivery, and you do have the option here, if it is a short-term day camp, let's say you had a livestock beef camp or whatever, you can tie that into your project. We do have Clover Buds, so we're going to tie that into there. Click Add Project, and then we just hit Continue. And so if you're entering this, and let's say you have to run to a meeting or you have to answer a phone call, this will remember it. It'll leave off right where you left off. You know, so when it'll click out, you click out, you come back in, this will not mess anything up. Excuse me. So now on the second part here, we're getting into our numbers. I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. Okay, so again, duplicates are current 4-H participants. So one thing to kind of be aware of when you're doing your activities is trying to keep a head count of, okay, if they're all 4-H kiddos and they're all duplicates, and that's okay, or you know, you want to keep track of your numbers basically. So let's say we had total of 10, 5 of which were 4-H participants, and we had 15 females, 10 of which were 4-H participants. So with duplicates removed, we have 10. One thing the system will do is you got to make sure your balances match. And what that means is these total numbers, as you go through, have to match your numbers. And I'll show you here what happens if they don't. So we do have some diversity. We have white, Hispanic. So out of our total number, we had 5 youth that were Hispanic, and probably 15. And that were non-Hispanic, and then we'll do see what happens. Oh, remove participants. Okay, I'm not reading the instructions. So our 10, we'll do 5. 5, 5. Oh. All right, well, that matches. Move. I don't know why it did that. So then the next section is your residence distribution. If you're in an urban area, then that would be in a different section, but you're going to remove your 4-H participants. So this is just strictly your duplicates. And then our clover beds are ages 5 through 7. So let's see here. Why is that not? Okay, so now we got everything balanced. It's all happy now. I don't know why it took out. Oh, okay, now we're in the third section. So our volunteer distribution, we had a non-Hispanic. We're going to have 2 non-Hispanic adult volunteers and 2 non-Hispanic youth volunteers. They were all, so a direct volunteer would be something, let's say like if I was to do the program, I would be a direct. If they're indirect, then that would be your helpers. Correct? Yes. Okay. So we're going to go for 2 and 2. So we have 4, and they were all female. Or, oops, no, we had 2 adult indirect and 2 female youth indirect. And this training would apply to leadership. So then we just say for our 2 in our 2, they did get training on this. If there were other adults present, then we can count those. And then we can click Save Form. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It does take a little bit of time, but once you have that done, then the next question is the processing. Well, once you've already got this information in, that's all you have to do. You can do show submitted forms for current 4-H year, so you can filter that down. I don't, with it not being our data set in the demo county doesn't submit, but if you know, once you get this done, the system processes it automatically. So that's what I'm trying to spit out, not doing a very good job of it, but we don't have any more that you have to do. There isn't a button you have to click at the end of the year. Same with the rollover. The system will automatically roll over, like I said, at midnight. And so what happens when we do a rollover is all of your records, and you can see here I haven't had a huge amount of time to get everybody reactivated, but everybody will roll over to inactive status. So then your new year is ready to rock and roll. There are a couple of things that you do want to check. I'm really encouraging folks to allow families to do their logins and allow families to edit their records. The reason behind that is making sure, you know, they get to chase after their own data, basically. It takes you from not having to do the paperwork. And they're managing their address. They're going to be critical in that process, if you will, is making sure their information is current and up to date. Now, given that some counties may have events or activities starting right off the bat in October. That may be a little stressful for them, but once they go through that process, then you know their information is up to date. And we would hope that they provide us valid working email addresses. That's very important. So in the chat box, Diane had said, is it required to make the submit form at the end? You do want to click the submit. If you've got everything in there and it's done, then yes, we want to submit it.
Excuse me.
I can't change that to make it a required button, but it is important to click that, yes, because that's how that reporting process is finalized, basically. Does that answer your question, Diane? Okay. So one thing on like this data record cleanup, if as you're going through your records, I have noticed, especially with counties, if you have not done or not had families do their login, you do need to check to make sure that their email address is in their family record, or check the member email address to see that there is this one here. And if they only have one email address, then enter that in and then click update member records with the same address. The biggie with the family email address is that is the gateway into 4-H Online. So some people say, well, I included an email address, and then I asked them what their email address is. Well, it's just their email address for their member record. The family record is where is the big piece. If they're logging into 4-H Online, that means they need to have that family address to get to this basically member list. What you see here is no different than what the family sees. Then they can add or access in to their adult records, or if there's members, and then they get to this point, and that's also how they can register for an event. One thing, I just lost what I was going to say. Another thing to look for, and if I remember what I was going to say, I'll come back to it, but another thing as far as that records cleanup piece is start looking for duplicates. We've got a couple years under our belts, and I think some folks have done a good job of cleaning up their data set, but what we want to be searching for, I search by family, last name, or searching by email addresses, not only in this tab, but also on the families tab. For whatever reason, sometimes a family may move, and they think that because they moved, they need to set up a new account. That's not necessarily so, but if you do find a duplicate, just give me their name, email address. It's helpful if I know if they're a member or an adult. And then just email that to me, and I can do a members, or I can do a record merge. Now sometimes I can't, because the system will recognize an overlap in the 4-H year. So I had found some records, or was working through some records that had a 13-14 data, or 13-14 record, and then a 14-15 record. So the system would hit on that 14-15, and at, members enrolled in overlapping years. So I'm hopeful by having the 2013-14, and if we go to 15-16, there isn't that 14 overlap, and I should be able to merge them once we roll over in the new year. So I have an ongoing file of those, and like I said, if you have duplicates, let me know, but we want to try to clean that up. And again, with the email addresses, we do want to encourage you to have the families actually set up an email account. If you are doing paper enrollment, that's fine, but the families still need to have an email account, and we want the families to be checking their email. You can work with the family, have them set up either a Gmail, a Hotmail, even a Yahoo account right at your office. Don't do your fakey email addresses anymore. And also tell them, although you may not have a computer or maybe you don't have internet access, you can still check your email when you come into town. Go to the library, or even come here to the extension office. They can check it, and then that way they can get their information. Where that becomes critical is when we're starting to do the invites for the background screens. And another big thing that we being Nancy and I need you guys to do for this year is on your adult records, do not activate any adult if they have not completed their background screen or have completed the Protecting Minors training. We had several folks that were working with children that had not completed those steps, and we can't have that. So it's very critical that when you're working through that re-enrollment process, you're going to have a monster pending file, but when those persons have done that, we need you, since we don't have that transfer of information from verified into 4-H online, that their back screen is done. What would be very helpful in the process is if you can record when their background screen date was done. In theory, all of our bugaboos with Protecting Minors should have been fleshed out, should be fleshed out. But if we need to have folks go through Net Learning and to complete their Protecting Minors training, we need that date in there. And so what we have in place is a shared report. And if you go to reports, let the hamsters get to work there. And if you click on the shared, there is the volunteer approval checklist report. And if we click run, or you can right click that and export it to a PDF. Wouldn't recommend exporting the file to an Excel spreadsheet. It's a little messy. But what we have here is your adult's first name, last name, what their member status is. So that means, what is their enrollment status? Are they active or are they pending? So the background screen date, we can see if a background screen date has been entered, and then the Protecting Minors, if it's in Net Learning. Also in this, you're going to see their other trainings. So if they actually complete the Protecting Minors training and it works for them in 4-H online, then what you're going to see here is Protecting Minors training and the training completed date. So then you'll have the training status. The system will know if they've clicked off or if they have not fully engaged into the very end of that training. If it's incomplete, or if they're having an issue, and let's say it's incomplete, but we can have them complete it through the Net Learning. So incompletion is unacceptable. They need to see this. And they also need to pay attention to that. If they are working with children and they hear about an issue or are confided by a child of something bad, then they need to report that. So that training is just not a bunch of talking. That is a very critical piece as far as risk management in us doing our job and not getting ourselves as an organization into a lot of trouble. So then also, if your county, as far as that re-enrollment process is concerned, if you charge fees, you can mark, okay, enrollment fee is paid. So that way this report is kind of designed as a one-stop shopping for you guys to kind of manage those enrollments. But we really do not want to see any active status if there are missing components. And Nancy and I will be monitoring this. One thing that's important about active status, if you have volunteers that you know are going to go or want to go or be part of KYG, they have to be active status. They have to go through the application process, and if they if they make it through the application process and are selected to be a volunteer for KYG, then they'll get the green light to register. But the only way you can register for an event is if you are active status. So that's also important for your ambassadors. Ambassadors registration is going to be done through 4-H Online. That means the children have to come in to the system after October 1. They have to re-enroll. They have to click submit. They have to communicate with you guys to go, okay, so I'm going to be an ambassador. What are my enrollment fees for this year? They have to have all that done in order to register. So that active status is very important. So what the big screen that is you guys are going to be checking is this confirmed members. You're going to have a long list here if you've got a lot of folks that, yeah, they've gotten their stuff in, but you can check to see if they've done their training or if they haven't by doing that report. There's another way that you can search on the trainings too. If you click on the search icon and then on the training tab, if you select State Protecting Minors Training and you want to make sure your filters are set right, but current 4-H year, click search. You can see who has done it and what their status is. So that is a way to kind of keep tabs on the protecting minors. The verified, I wish we could plug in verified information and have that right there too, but we don't. So that's going to be something where you have to go through the verified and monitor those reports. But you're going to want to do that on a fairly regular basis. And we really are trying to encourage folks to re-enroll October through December, just kind of getting everybody kind of geared up, because for the 16-17 4-H year, we are going to be making a big push and trying to get all of that re-enrollment process done.
By when? Are we shooting for the December 31st again?
Yeah, ideally, if we can. I think that's going to be a topic of conversation at the statewide training, to be honest with you, Rosie. But
oh, good.
But it's, we understand that all the counties are on a different timeline, but if that's one less thing that you have to worry about in the summer and spring, we're better off for that, and it just makes it a little bit tighter. And a big part of that too is aligning this re-enrollment not by the date that it's done, but kind of working on that 4-H calendar year. It's October 1, I need to redo this. And while folks for this year are going to go, well, maybe I just got my screen done in May, I have to redo it. Yeah, because we are in a new 4-H year. And while verified, technically that screen technically is still valid, we are in a new year. So they have to it's part of that whole re-enrollment process. So that adjustment will hopefully work to that, but
oh no, I'm good with the December. I mean, my ideal date would be January 31st. Except it gets us into trouble with KYG because in our county, like Twin and some of the others, they're right into harvest now. They get out of that. It's their. You've heard it. Heard it. But if it's December, then it's December.
Well, and I think the 16-17 also is when policies and procedures, the new re-edit will come out, so there will actually be verbiage in that document kind of marrying up with some of these processes that we've done. So
that'll be wonderful.
Yeah, so that's the method behind the madness there. So I've kind of gone through rapid fire. ES 237, the record cleanup and rollover. We do have self-help sheets, particularly with the record cleanup and then the duplicate records. Those tip sheets are right under the enrollment and data management. All of your year-end rollover and reporting information is a little bit towards the bottom of the page, but all of that information's there. You know, honestly, the ES 237 and the re-enrollment process is a fraction of the headache that it used to be with our older system. And I think as we go forward, we'll be okay. You know, and we still, if there's folks that, if you have parents or families that have questions about re-enrolling or how that works, I do have a family and volunteer help sheet page. So yes, Jerry, the reports for the ES 237 and that group enrollment form, those are done through 4-H Online. Your educators, if they are doing work with youth, they are going to report, or they do need to report those numbers through 4-H Online, and they also need to report to CALS Plan. I think it's Dr. Paul McCauley. If they have not visited with him on how to report to CALS Plan, then they need to get on the phone with him, because I think their reporting deadline is the end of October for that.
And it's such a fun report.
Oh, it is just a thrill minute.
Erica, and I know it's under probably the rollover instructions in there, but each county has the ability to take out all the project information from last year, correct?
Do what?
That when we roll over, we have the ability to take out all of the project information. You know, when it says you're enrolling and you go to participation, we can take out all of that old information. Is that correct? I don't want last year's projects listed. What happened this year, we left them last year, and what happened is people didn't go and update it. They just thought, oh, okay, we're good, see ya.
Oh.
So take out all that project information.
Okay, so I think you can do that. Isn't that under options, Rosie?
I think so. I was just wondering. You know, you do that part once a year, and it's like, what?
Oh, I know. Let me check my handy dandy little cheat sheet. Re-enrollment. I don't know if it's on here. Okay. And that might actually be something, Rosie, that I need to do on my admin side.
You know, like once I get everything into you, which will be by September 30th. I mean, I'll have everything there. I just really didn't want to take it with me this weekend when I was leaving. But we just want to get the projects out starting by, you know.
So what you're saying, Rosie, if I'm understanding correctly, is you want them to have to reselect their project, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to check on that one, because I'm not.
I know we've enable counties, age divisions. Yeah, if you would check on it and just email me.
All right, I can do that.
The problem we're having is they see, because we have ours broken down into junior A, junior B, intermediate, senior. So they just say, oh, we have market B, but they don't update the level. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we go in to set up classes for FAIR off of the 4-H information, and
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, I'll take a look at that, and I will get back to you on that one, Rosie. So did anybody have any other questions on those particular areas or a different area? Did everybody get through their project completion and how to do that?
You want to show that to us?
Sure.
Just while we're here. Hey, I'm not scared of asking.
CAL's plan.
Just good review.
Oh, nope, not a problem. Jerry, no, CAL's plan is not the financial information for each club. CAL's plan is a reporting system through UI extension, and Dr. Paul McCauley works on that, but that basically handles the different departments within CAL's, the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences plan work. So that includes 4-H, that also includes range, beef, all of the educators. The financial pieces for each club, that's strictly 4-H financials. That would be your affiliation agreements, the IRS components, all of that information that kind of ties into our nonprofit status, and that's umbrellaed with University of Idaho, but that's a completely different element from CAL's plan. So one of the things that we can do with our projects is to check off project completion. And so to do that, you're going to go through your FAIR placings if you haven't already done so. This is going to be something you're going to want to do before the end of the rollover. You're going to want to select your project and make sure you're in the current 4-H year. But if you have members, if you have a huge list, and it's very easy, if they all completed it, you can do on your check options, check all. And if you want to, you could still do that. And if you know who has not completed the project, simply uncheck them. And then project completion options, you can say project completion, and then they'll have a date there. So I'll check it, and project completion, and you can put in your FAIR date. And there you go. And it's a very easy process. And you want to do that for all of your projects. And it takes a little bit of time, but once you've got it done, you're good to go. Any questions on that?
The average of the group.
All right. So one of the things I would like from you guys is to know if there is a need for doing any specific trainings, or if you're finding Cafe 42 to be helpful, and if you're liking this type of format.
I enjoy Cafe 42, you know, when I can get on.
Yeah, I enjoy it too, Erica. You know, when I can get on, I'd rather do this, than that way we're not having to go away from our offices.
I agree.
Not that we don't like seeing you in person.
Well, we'll get that opportunity here in a lot coming October, either through the statewide training and the volunteer forum. But no, I agree. I think this has been a good change. Are there any topics or any content areas that would be helpful or are in need of, as far as I'm kind of thinking for the tip sheets, or maybe even something that we could cover in our next session?
Well, I don't know if it's on a tip sheet, but Did you ever address the one thing I had mentioned a while back on the protecting minors before the leaders or volunteers could check out or submit their enrollment, that they had to make sure they did that protecting minors video? Remember, they had to go in when they submitted it. That still didn't mean that they had done that video. And that was the problem I was having to recontact them and say, hey, you haven't done that part. Now you got to go back in and do that.
I don't have a way to link that as a part of their requirement for submitting their enrollment. Okay. One thing we do want to make sure folks don't use Internet Explorer. There is still that issue, but they can use Chrome, they can use Firefox, and as far as I know, the training even works on Safari if they're using that. But unfortunately, no, we can't link that training as part of that submission piece, but you know, I guess that's where if they can, I don't know, I'll see what I can do on their enrollment screen and see if I can send a message, oh, by the way, be sure to complete this, you know, as far as a message. Not that people read.
No.
I'll see where I can plug in that information. Okay. All right, Diane, if I'm willing and able to do that, just let me know kind of what you have in mind, or what the need is as far as content, and I'd be happy to do that. Whatever I can do to help, that's what I'm here for. Also, since we have a few more minutes, there's definitely a lot of new stuff coming out in the Project Requirements Handbook. Big changes. So one of the things that I'll be doing again this year, I will have an overview sheet. It's going to be very important that you read that overview sheet, and I would even go so far as opening up the Project Requirement Handbook and going through that as you're reviewing that document, because in several of the projects, like with KYG in particular, the KYG Exploring Citizenship Manual has been revised. There are new project requirements for those projects, not only in the project requirement itself, but also in the exhibit requirements. And then if there are questions on that, to let me know. Our goal is to have that done and out to you guys by October 1. But if there are questions, let me know. And there's definitely going to be a lot of changes in the livestock. So
wow,
really read through that. One of the things that's new for livestock will be the lesson plans. Those are going to be pretty much a pilot for this year. And then they will definitely go into play and probably be included in the Project Requirements Handbook for the next year. But they are looking, you know, there's going to be a skills checklist on some of these projects. I know, like the shooting sports in particular has got a skills checklist component. There will be changes to the clothing projects with the STEAM program or curriculum from Nebraska. That's got a portfolio component, and then we've also included that option. The portfolio is pretty awesome for clothing, and so we've included that as an option for clothing projects. As either do the portfolio or the record book option for clothing. So those are some cap note on some changes that I would anticipate. There's going to be big changes on foods too. So
yes, but I talked to Grace this morning, and hopefully we're not deleting any of them out until we have something to replace
them with. Yeah.
Maureen wants them out, and I'm saying here, and what would you like us to use?
Yeah. I kind of was thinking, I was reading through that same thing last night going, whoa, okay.
Well, I'll tell you, Teresa and I and every other coordinator in the state would throw things at you, Erica. We're telling you now.
No, I don't want that. I already have the target on my back.
Well, yeah, if Grace has, I told Grace that you had a meeting this morning, so I don't know if she's talked to you yet or not. But yeah, we went through those. But so you said shooting sports is going to go to a checklist?
Well, they're going to have the record book, but they're actually going to use for archery, pistol, shotgun, and rifle. Instead of the optional skills checklist being an option, that's actually going to be a requirement, which I think makes sense.
Well, we've always used it, so.
Yeah, so it's just getting that consistency piece into play, some clarification on the activities components. It's just to try, it's a never-ending, ongoing piece of cleanup where that is concerned. So, and then with that being said, on the project requirements, you're going to want to look at what you have for county-based projects. And what I used to do was just include those right in that same binder. So they're all together. And if there's something I need to flag it. It just helps alleviate some of those questions and headaches you have to deal with at fair time. And that way, you've communicated the same information out the gate as projects are starting to get going, and it helps come fair time. Your judges appreciate that for sure. I'm going to stop sharing. Is there any other questions? So, all right. Our next session, these sessions are going to be, they're regularly scheduled, third Thursday of every month. And our next session will be on Thursday, October 15th. There may be a date adjustment on that since we're coming off of the statewide training, so I might push that back to Friday or perhaps the 22nd.
Well, can we do this at state training?
Sure. Well, I don't know. I looked at the agenda and I didn't really see anything 4-H online specific or Erica Thiel specific. So we'll
okay. I was just trying to save you some time and you'd have a larger group.
Yeah. I know that the schedule is going to be very tight.
Oh.
So we'll see. And I think we're scheduled to be out of there at noon. So folks are going to be traveling at that point. So I don't know. With that in mind, I'm probably just going to make a decision to move that session to the 22nd. So it's still Thursday. So if we don't have, if you guys don't have any other questions, I think we'll call it a day. But thank you very much for coming in, joining me. Hopefully, as we go forward, we'll get more folks to participate. And if there's any questions, otherwise, once you've processed what we've gone through, or as you go through things, if you have questions, don't ever hesitate to call or email me. I'm more than happy to assist you in any way I can. So with that, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Erica.
Appreciate it. Bye, guys.